April 8, 2007. The Netherlands, Kerkrade, Limburg Park. The 31st round of the Eredivisie League is underway. The game came to the 67th minute, but Roda JC, who was at home, had already killed the game. 3-0 lead the visiting SBV elite team. The Eredivisie League has a total of 34 rounds, and Roda JC is currently rushing to the European playoff. The situation of the visiting team SBV Elite is just the opposite. They are trying to avoid relegation, ranking third from the bottom in the league. But there seems to be no suspense in this game. It is difficult to recover 3 goals. Therefore, 2 minutes ago, the coach of the SBV Elite team had replaced 2 main forwards and a midfielder, retaining his strength and hoping to play the next 3 rounds of the league. The young players who were replaced were unknown, and only the Asian-faced Shen Feng could make the audience pay attention. The most successful Asian players in the Eredivisie are Lee Young-pyo and Park Ji-sung, who played for PSV Eindhoven a few years ago. More than 13,000 spectators in the stands at Limburg Park did not think that the Asian players wearing the SBV Elite team shirts could make much waves in the game. 18-year-old Shen Feng is from China. This season, he joined the SBV Elite team as a loan player in the winter window. And the club that loaned him out is known to everyone in world football. Last year's Champions League winner, La Liga giants Barcelona. The starting trident of the SBV Elite team has gone to the 2nd place, and the youngest Walskamp remains on the court. However, he obviously lost his fighting spirit in the face of 3 goals behind. Shen Feng, who is 180 centimeters tall and has a well-proportioned body, is full of energy after debuting. Whenever there is an opportunity to attack, he will do his best to attack the Roda JC defense line. Having been trained in La Masia for a year and a half, his basic skills and sense of communication are absolutely no problem. Compared with those of La Masia, the gap between Shen Feng and them is undoubtedly in the level of talent. His technical strength is no problem to play in the Eredivisie, but if he wants to play the C position, I am afraid that the head coach Lockhoff will not agree. Roda JC will be more vigilant about the newly replaced players after the SBV Elite team is replaced, but after successive defensive successes, he will not take it seriously. It was clear at a glance that Shen Feng was a new recruit in the professional arena. To be precise, it was his career debut. Nobody cares. Even if Shen Feng was a bit alone and the dribbling breakthrough was intercepted, the team's main striker Waskamp didn't bother to complain to Shen Feng. At best he cast a blank eye. I don't even look at what material I'm made of. With you, I want to show off too? Shen Feng was not discouraged, most of his teammates had already given up and played the health ball. The other striker who was replaced was very knowledgeable and passed the ball to Waskamp. It seemed that he was on the court by the dock to recognize his big brother. However, Shen Feng didn't seem to be very conscious. After 70 minutes of the game, Roda JC also made a series of substitutions. They have no other idea about this game that is guaranteed to win, reduce consumption, and the last 3 rounds of the league will hit the Champions League ticket playoff area. The fans of the SBV Elite team have already given up their expectations for the game. The fans of the away team are dead in the stands, and everyone is waiting for the end of the game. In the 74th minute of the game, Shen Feng was entangled with Roda JC defender Rachambul in the run-up. On Rachambur's feet, as the opponent's body was out of balance, he rammed and put pressure on him and added more force. Rachambul fell heavily to the ground, clutching his kicked right foot, showing pain on his face. The referee's whistle sounded and Shen Feng was awarded a foul, and he was shown a yellow card at the same time. Shen Feng with straight facial features and short hair had a serious expression and stepped back without changing his face. Anyone can see that this kid has fighting spirit, just by looking at the murderous look in his eyes. He should be very ambitious. But on the court, we must rely on strength to speak. When Rachambul stood up, he stared at Shen Feng gloomily. Did I give you a face? He has already made up his mind that he will give Shen Feng a good physical education lesson on professional football. Rhoda JC took a free kick in the backcourt. Shen Feng turned around to participate in the defense, and just took 2 steps, the whole world was suddenly swallowed by darkness. Shen Feng stopped, showing a thoughtful look in the endless darkness. What's the situation? Even if it is an instant total solar eclipse, the sound shouldn't disappear. Just when I wondered if there was something wrong with me, the sky suddenly shone brightly. He looked up, full of astonishment. A huge football above the sky is in sight. And a row of patterns rolled under the football, which were national flags next to each other. France, Spain, Germany, England, Italy, Portugal, Belgium, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. Football, flag, light. He knows all these things. It can make up this magnificent and gorgeous picture in front of him, but he can't understand it. What high-tech is this? Was it teleport to a strange space? 4 lines of words suddenly appeared under the rolling national flag. Competition level, C. Competition intensity, C. Consumption strength, E. Comprehensive assessment, D. Shen Feng suddenly shouted, "What does this mean? Give me a manual." There was no response at all. He didn't even hear back what he called out. Then he saw that the rolling national flag suddenly speeded up, so fast that he could not see the picture of the national flag. This made him panic. That rotational speed brought a sense of oppression. Suddenly, a national flag flew out of it, and a golden beam of light smashed directly 3 meters away in front of Shen Feng. Shen Feng took a step back subconsciously. The light fades. The Brazilian flag was presented in front of him, and the whole body was full of brilliance. It used to be ordinary, but now it looks extraordinarily gorgeous. High-end, atmospheric, high-grade. Shen Feng took another step back, because suddenly the surface of the Brazilian flag was like waves in a lake. In his eyes, this movement is not much different from a horror movie. He has made preparations to fight or escape, his heart is beating unsatisfactorily, and the speed is getting faster and faster. Because a person came out of the Brazilian flag. Take a closer look. Acquaintance. Alien, Ronaldo. Just. A pot-belly and a weed-like hairstyle. This Ronaldo is also wearing the AC Milan jersey. After walking out, he stood with his hands on his hips like a puppet. Ronaldo ah! 3 lines of characters appeared beside him. Shen Feng glanced at it. Name, Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima. Age, 30. Season, 2006-2007. Before the mind could keep up, a new situation appeared in the body. Shen Feng suddenly felt an invisible force pulling him towards Ronaldo. Shen Feng rubbed his feet against the ground and waved his arms vigorously, his expression gritted his teeth. No matter what. Is there anyone who can say a word? Son of a bitch! Shen Feng's whole body floated up in the low roar. Then, just before he was about to collide head-on with the Ronaldo version of Ronaldo, he raised his hand to block. But the next second, he had no sense of collision. He penetrated Ronaldo's body, and the scene in front of him instantly returned to the game at Limburg Park. Shen Feng almost stumbled and fell to the ground, stabilized his center of gravity and looked around. It's business as usual. Rhoda JC is attacking, SBV Elite is defending. Just now? Hallucinations? But it's too real. Without thinking too much, Shen Feng still tried his best to participate in the defense. Rhoda JC has already led by 3 goals. After changing players, he also sent young players to train. The attack quality is average, and at this stage, most of the attacking players want to show themselves, so they also lack team spirit. After the SBV Elite team successfully defended, they organized the attack slowly. They are also a little bit stable and don't want to lose more. Shen Feng moved in the front court and caught the gap so that his teammates could find and pass the ball to him comfortably. Compared with Waskamp and another striker who had already started walking, Shen Feng was more active and able to appear in the air to complete the response. In the 78th minute of the game, Shen Feng received a pass from midfield teammate Ruxus in front of the penalty area to the left. The moment he touched the ball, he felt the difference in ball feel. Rashambul, who had been staring at Shen Feng, rushed forward decisively and pressed fiercely. When Shen Feng noticed the opponent, Rachambra had already made a flying shovel action. In the past, Shen Feng should have changed the direction of the ball in the face of this situation, trying to complete the dodge, but he was not sure whether it would be successful or not. At this moment, he pulled the ball and took a step back. The action seemed unhurried but not slow. He pulled the ball back half a step and swiped the ball to the left. Just happened to cross with Rachambur. Rachambul's face was inconceivable. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com looked at Shen Feng's skill and delicacy in handling the ball from a close distance. Compared with before, it was a completely different person. After Shen Feng kicked the ball, he entered the penalty area with 3 steps. Rachambul's attack left the left flank of the penalty area empty. Before the fullback who came to fill the position to help defense got close, Shen Feng smashed the ball and changed to a crosscut, using the running guard Waskamp as a cover to stagger the distance with another central defender Pamos. Pamos looked at Shen Feng in astonishment, but he didn't expect that he would not pass the ball to Waskamp. And Waskamp's expression showed anger after the diagonal move was offside. You really dare not to spread the word when you step on a horse. Shen Feng was extraordinarily calm at this time. He was not impatient when handling the ball, and he didn't have a sense of impact. However, after entering the penalty area, the simple change of direction and cross-cut got rid of the close-up of the fullback and bypassed the frontal blocking of the central back. He looked up at the eyeball door, then kicked up and shot. Roda JC goalkeeper Kujovic made a save immediately, but the football flying towards the lower right corner of the goal was too fast. He tried his best but failed to touch the football. Limburg Park fell into silence as the ball flew into the lower right corner of the wickedly angled goal. The home team's fans frowned and stared at Shen Feng, who scored. The fans of the away team looked at each other. We scored a goal? Who entered? Do you know? The players on the field of the SBV elite team were obviously unresponsive. Only Shen Feng kept rushing into the goal, picked up the football, held it in his arms and ran towards the midfield. With his head held high and his expression resolute, he officially opened his career scoring account at this moment. Wow! The SBV elite team pulled a goal back. The young player who scored the goal made a breakthrough in the penalty area and adjusted his direction to score the goal is really eye-catching. He is number 33 of the SBV elite team. His name is Feng Shen. The match commentator knew absolutely nothing about Shen Feng. Can only be pronounced by the English letters on the list. The relaxed mood of the Roda JC players disappeared, because the head coach Atvelt stood up from the bench and walked to the sidelines, with a serious face and a warning in his eyes, "Stop playing." The coach of the SBV elite team, Lockhoff, also walked to the sidelines, and he reacted the same as the few fans who came to the away game with a confused expression. Looking at Shen Feng, his eyes were full of doubts. Is this kid so powerful? After being in the team for more than 3 months, Shen Feng left the coaching staff with the impression that he was a desperate saburo, and there was nothing particularly impressive about him. The technology is not the top, and there is no experience in the professional arena. The club loaned him from FC Barcelona, in fact, to help Barcelona get rid of the burden. Dutch football has always been closely related to Barcelona. The Dutch gang in Barcelona's history, the Godfather Cruyff's influence on Barcelona can be said to be deeply rooted, and now the head coach is also the Netherlands. The legendary Rijkaard. The SBV elite team does some dirty work for Barcelona. The drunkard's intention is not to drink, and to build a better relationship in the hope of better cooperation in the future. Therefore, Shen Feng came to the team on loan for more than 3 months, and only got the opportunity today. Is it an opportunity? 0:3 behind, a game that is sure to be lost is just garbage time for garbage to consume. At this time, Lockhoff gestured to the team according to the situation, to cheer them up and stop playing health balls. There is a glimmer of light in the game that is sure to be lost. To carry forward the spirit of sports, you must also grit your teeth. The vast majority of fans in the stands did not think this was a sign of a sudden change in the situation. The SBV elite team only got 1 goal back. Still 2 goals behind. Injury time is included in the game, but the remaining time is no more than 15 minutes. Shen Feng returned to the center circle and put the football at the kickoff point, and then walked outside the center circle. Although his teammates had always regarded him as heir before, at this moment they took the initiative to give him a high five to celebrate, and simply praised him. Rhoda JC has replaced the 2 main players in the attacking group, but now, under the invisible pressure of the head coach, he still has the simplest thinking, to score again. Re-expand the lead to 3 goals, then there must be no suspense in the game. They are strong, the SBV elite team is weak, and the fundamentals have not changed. In addition, since Michaels took charge of Dutch football and Cruyff's all-out attack and defense as the team leader became popular all over the world, Dutch football has long insisted on offensive football under the advocacy of the Dutch Football Association. A utilitarian coach like Van Marwijk is not only deviant, but also rare in Dutch football. Therefore, attacking is the most normal game thinking. Roda JC quickly launched a fierce attack after kickoff, and the SBV elite team strengthened their defense. In the 82nd minute of the game, the SBV elite team launched a quick counterattack in the backcourt. Midfielder Rooks passed the ball to the right in the backcourt. Another young striker, Robin Hoffman, who was replaced with Shen Feng, pushed the ball forward quickly. It seemed that only Shen Feng was in Rachamber's eyes, which made Shen Feng unable to run out of a good response position. But at this time, his teammates pushed the offensive, and as a left winger, he moved quickly to follow up. Rachamber kept a distance of about 5 yards from Shen Feng all the way back to defense. Hoffman continued to develop his dog-licking qualities, dribbling into the danger zone and passing the ball to center Wascombe quickly. Wascombe responded with his back in the middle of the penalty area. When he stopped the ball, he was closely pressed by Pamos. The two fought against each other. Wascombe tried to force the ball to turn around. The man turned around, but the ball was blocked by Pamos's legs. When Wascombe turned angrily and was about to retreat, he suddenly saw Shen Feng come into view. The football that was blocked by Pamos was controlled by Shen Feng when he cut in the middle. Shen Feng did come to pick up, but Wascombe would rather come by himself than pass the ball. If he doesn't pass the ball, the opponent can't stand it. Pamos just happened to destroy the ball, and Shen Feng adjusted the direction a little bit before taking control of the ball and heading towards the penalty area. Consistent and smooth without procrastination. Shen Feng felt that his control of the ball in actual combat had made a qualitative leap. When Pamos immediately moved in front of him to intercept him, the readied Rachamber rushed out halfway. This time, instead of a shovel, he fiercely stretched his legs to steal the ball. At the moment when the opponent stretched his legs, Shen Feng made an emergency stop and smashed the ball and changed to a crosscut. Passed by Rachamber. Rachamber looked stunned, as if he had been tricked, while Pamos slammed into Rachamber when he turned around. Pamos just wanted to grab Rachamber and rub at the ground. Are you undercover when riding a horse? Even if you give it away yourself, you still want to drag me to death? Shen Feng dunked Rachamber, and Pamos was also blocked. Wascombe reached out for the ball in the empty space. The situation at this time is clear at a glance. As long as Shen Feng makes a pass, Wascombe is a single-handed move forward, and the goalkeeper is moving towards Shen Feng, which means that Wascombe can face the half-empty goal, a golden opportunity. But Shen Feng didn't even look at the right side, he swung the ball in one step and adjusted his kick to shoot. Wascombe was already scolding in his heart. But his face was still calm. If Shen Feng didn't score the goal, he would shoot him to death with all his firepower. Shen Feng felt unusually calm even when he shot. Left foot pushes the bottom right corner of the goal. The goalkeeper moves the reverse-cut line. Kujovic made an emergency stop and then made a reverse save. He couldn't exert his strength to the limit, and the save distance was naturally limited. Before the person hit the ground, the ball had already rolled into the goal. All the spectators at Limburg Park were stunned. Where did this monster come from? Shen Feng ran into the goal again, picked up the ball, held it in his arms and ran towards the midfield. No one cared when he appeared. At this moment, it attracted the unbelievable gaze of more than 13,000 pairs of eyes in the audience. Go in again. Feng Shen scored twice in a short period of time. It's incredible, it's incredible. The Chinese players who came off the bench for the SBV elite team actually scored 2 goals in a row when the team was 3 goals behind and would lose. The suspense of the game is back. The mood of Roda JC fans instantly became panic. What the hell? The SBV elite team that has been carried into the coffin actually cheated the corpse? Head coach Atvelt was furious and glared at the players on the field, yelling to cheer them up. A good situation with a 3-goal lead. If you have to make waves, something big will happen now. In fact, the fans of the SBV elite team and the coach Lockhoff did not understand what was going on. They all started to pretend to be dead, and suddenly they were resurrected, making them feel mixed feelings. The situation is changing too fast, and the thinking and mentality cannot keep up. Lockhoff can't wait to have his 3 legs swollen. If I had known that substitutions would not have easily wasted places. Precisely replace Shen Feng, and then retain the main force. It is uncertain who will win and who will lose in the end of this game. At this moment, he could only wave his hand to signal the whole team to race against time. The eyes of the generals of the SBV elite team when they looked at Shen Feng also changed. With hindsight, I thought, this kid is from Barcelona. It seems that he has found a strong reason for him. It's just that I really didn't see it during training. I blame myself for being clumsy. But the head coach didn't see it either. Otherwise, how could it be time-consuming to use it as a tool man after the garbage time in the final stage of the league? Alas, it's just that the coaching staff has no vision. They're used to frying shredded potatoes, and they can't make abalone when they are given a piece of abalone. It's been kept in the freezer. Roda JC kicks off again. The fans were a little flustered. The players on the field were even more panicked. The front court players want to score to re-extend the lead. The players in the backcourt want to defend to limit the opponent from scoring again. This led to the disjointed front and back. After the SBV elite defended successfully, they took control of the midfield. But the defensive situation has changed. Shen Feng couldn't move to the front of the penalty area at will. The midfield teammates are also taking the initiative to observe and pay attention to his position. Even if the eyes are short-sighted and astigmatism, as long as they are not blind, they now know who is the father. In the 88th minute of the game, Shen Feng moved from the left side of the penalty area and crossed into the penalty area. Fullback Drost rushed up to receive the pass and quickly passed the ball across the middle. Shen Feng faced Rachamper after stopping the ball just after entering the penalty area. Even though Rachamper, who had already been sprayed with blood by Pamos, was a little bit calmer at this time. He began to guard Shen Feng cautiously. When Shen Feng raised his right leg to change the direction of the steering wheel belt outside the penalty area, Rachamper subconsciously tilted his center of gravity to prepare to block. But in the next second, Shen Feng's right leg feinted in front of the football for half a circle, then the spike turned inward. Damn it! Rachamper's blood was surging. At this moment, his brain was completely hot, as if hot magma had melted his brain, causing him to completely lose his mind. Because he had already lost his position, Shen Feng's inward cut would basically pass him. Rachamper turned around and stretched out his legs. You kid actually used me a fake. Very insulting. Without accumulating energy, UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Shoveling in place did little damage, but it actually tripped Shen Feng. When Shen Feng fell to the ground, Rachambul immediately got up and jumped furiously. He started talking trash to Shen Feng. Shen Feng heard the referee's whistle, and looked back at the referee's finger on the penalty spot in the penalty area. Only then did he slowly get up. Without saying a word, he just stared at Rachamper, who was jumping up and down in a frenzy with cold eyes. His teammates couldn't stand it any longer, so they came over and pulled him away. Don't be ashamed. Rhoda JC coach Atvelt almost died on the spot. Lockhoff jumped up with excitement. On the way to relegation, 1 point is worth $1,000. Now the SBV elite team is expected to take a point away from the road. The key is that they were 3 goals behind at 1 point. The fans of Rhoda JC either looked blank or shook their heads. Are they all hallucinations? How could this be possible? SBV elite team fans returned from the underworld to the world, this is confirmed. The team is not a flashback. It's crawling back from hell. They cheered the team vigorously. Shen Feng was standing at the penalty spot and was about to take the penalty, but Waskamp came over and pushed Shen Feng away without a word. Shen Feng turned his head and glanced at Waskamp, his mood fluctuated a little, but he still silently exited the penalty area. He won the penalty, and now Waskamp will take the penalty. He let it go. No way, the substitute is not qualified to compete with the main force. But he doesn't care about penalties now. What he cares more about is Waskamp's main position. That's what he wants and must grab. Limburg Park. The SBV elite team won a penalty. Waskamp stood in the penalty area ready to take the penalty. The referee blows his whistle. The audience watched nervously in the penalty area. When Waskamp shot the ball after the start, Shen Feng started running from outside the penalty area and rushed to the goal. He didn't know if Waskamp would score the ball. But as a striker, he must always prepare for potential opportunities and act. The football that flew towards the middle of the goal and slightly to the lower left was obviously playing too straight. Waskamp saw that Rhoda JC goalkeeper Kujovic made the save in the right direction, but the angle of the football was a little too low. Kujovic has already pressed his arm down to block the ball. The fans of Rhoda JC were just about to cheer and celebrate, but the next second they fell from the world to hell. Shen Feng rushed past Waskamp, who was just about to start a supplementary shot, and took the lead in front of the ball that popped up. Goalkeeper Kujovic jumped up from the ground like a blown-up cat, angrily accusing his teammates of not being able to clear the siege immediately. Shen Feng rushed into the goal for the 3rd time, picked up the ball, held it in his arms, turned and ran towards the midfield. This time, his teammates were caught off guard. 3 goals behind, 3 goals in a row, don't you celebrate? Shen Feng's posture made it clear that he felt that he could win, and it was a race against time. From the beginning to the end, although he did not show a half smile from the first goal to the 3rd goal. But the temperament of the whole person is constantly changing. From self-confidence to strong, from strong to high-spirited. The more you play, the more you have, the more you fight, the stronger. This is perhaps the most incredible picture in the Eredivisie this round. The SBV elite were 3 goals behind at 78 minutes. After 12 minutes, the SBV elite equalized. All 3 goals came from substitute raiders, Feng Shen. The Chinese player, who was loaned to SBV elite from Barcelona, accomplished an astonishing feat in his professional debut. Perhaps we may wonder why Lockhoff did not use him earlier. If this player is given a chance from the second half of the league, will the SBV elite team still be stuck in the relegation zone? Perhaps the fans of the SBV elite team in the away team fans stand, and the fans who can hold on to the TV for 80 minutes without giving up will have the same confusion. Can score a hat-trick in 12 minutes. Is this young Chinese striker more than something? What a genius! What kind of muscle in Lockhoff's head is wrong and has been left unused? Lockhoff is celebrating wildly with the assistants, jumping and cuddling. Turning around and laughing, he raised his fists high, but saw that Shen Feng had returned to the teeing spot in the middle circle with the football in his arms, put the ball on the teeing spot, and then stepped back outside the circle. Shen Feng, the party who scored the hat-trick, looked extremely calm. Instead, his teammates and coaches were a little ecstatic with excitement. Lokhoff quickly regained his serious expression and restrained his excitement, so as not to look like a clown. Shen Feng gave a high five with his teammates who came to reach out and reached out, which was a simple celebration. Waskamp was the last to come. Flying Point, his whole body is already messy. He didn't even dare to look at Shen Feng. If it weren't for Shen Feng's supplementary shot, he would be the sinner in this game. From coaches to players, from fans to caddies, Rhoda JC was stunned. A 3-goal lead can be chased by the opponent for 3 consecutive goals. The 3 points they got has now become 1 point. Rhoda JC's coach Atveld felt uncomfortable, as if countless needles had pierced into every pore on his body. How could an unknown Chinese player score a hat-trick in 12 minutes at Limburg Park? Where did this monster come from? He didn't care about asking the assistant to check the family tree of this substitute soldier to see what the background was. What if you found it? Rhoda JC's 3-goal lead was equalized. Not to mention that they have lost a lot. The key is that they have to hit a higher ranking and enter the Champions League ticket competition area. 1 point at home is not enough. The 4th official played stoppage time on the sidelines. 4 minutes. Atveld turned all the discomfort in his body into a roar and vented it out. Ask the team to launch a mad attack. Be sure to take down the SBV elite team before the game is over. Rhoda JC quickly launched a strong attack after kickoff, and the formation pressed up. In contrast, the SBV elite team retreated across the board to strengthen their defense. The head coach Lokhoff is very aware of current affairs and has not been able to look forward to Shu. He was already satisfied to be able to take away a draw away from home with 3 goals in a row. So gesture to the team to strengthen defense. Even Waskamp retreated to support the defense line. However, Shen Feng quietly moved from the wing to the center position, standing at the forefront of the team's formation. He only counter-robbed and harassed near the center circle, and then moved back and forth, trying to bypass the interception range of the 2 defenders of Rhoda JC. Lokhoff didn't react when he saw it. In fact, he doesn't expect Shen Feng to make much contribution to the defense. And Shen Feng, who scored 3 goals, does have a privilege on the court at this moment. As long as the SBV elite team can take away a precious 1 point from the away game, even if Shen Feng takes the initiative to die red and is sent off, and returns to the locker room after the game, Lokhoff will still give Shen Feng a respectful knock. No defense, let him go. Even if reason tells Lokhoff that Shen Feng has created an incredible miracle, it should be the limit. But he still had a very weak sense of expectation in his heart. Maybe, he can do some earth-shattering things. The SBV elite team's defense line was in turmoil, and Rhoda JC created a series of threatening offensives. However, they also replaced the main players. The ability of the players on the bench to seize opportunities is really terrible. When injury time came to the last minute, the SBV elite team made a clearance from the penalty area. When Waskamp tried to make a clearance in the middle of the backcourt, he was pressed by the opponent and knocked the ball away. As a result, the football flew in front of Rux's, the core of the midfield of the SBV elite team, and he stopped the ball with his chest. I can't tell if it's a pass or a clearance. But when the football was flying to the front court, Shen Feng started almost simultaneously. He quickly rushed over from the left side of center defender Rachambul about 3 yards. Rachambra and Pamos turned around at the same time, the former chasing Shen Feng and the latter sprinting straight towards the penalty area. In front of the penalty area, Shen Feng slowed down in front of the falling football and stretched his legs to stop the ball. This ball is not small, and he may not have the confidence to stop the ball smoothly. But at this moment, when the football touched the surface of his right foot, it seemed as if the two were stuck together. Perfect stop! The fans in the stands at Limburg Park were stunned. The fans of the home team were in a state of anxiety, and they almost dared not look any further. Someone already hugged their heads and subconsciously shook them. No, no, no more ejaculation. The few fans of the SBV elite team were extremely excited. Although they couldn't even name Shen Feng, their blood was detonated by Shen Feng. Rachambra and Pamos were about to catch up with Shen Feng, just 1 meter away. And even if Shen Feng starts again, most likely he will be caught up. But Shen Feng stopped the ball and looked up at the situation in front of him. Goalkeeper Kujovic is out. Seeing that the opponent was about to rush out of the penalty area, Shen Feng decided to shoot from the spot. An understated lob shot. The soccer ball rose from the ground, and passed over Kujovic's head in a light spin. The latter took off and stretched out his hand to try to hit the ball, but his right arm, which was stretched to the limit, still couldn't reach the soccer ball. The football outlined a parabolic trajectory over the penalty area of Roda JC and fell straight into the middle of the goal. The fans of the away team at Limburg Park seemed to have staged a riot. SBV elite fans hug each other, roar, and wave their fists. Everyone's attention was focused on Shen Feng, who rushed to the sidelines to celebrate. Although it was the first show in his career, Shen Feng did not show the slightest rookie feeling when celebrating. When he was about 10 meters away from the sidelines, he took off and bent his knees while running, and leaned back to ensure that his kneeling would not turn into a knock for the audience. As he slid down with his knees bent, he clenched his fists and roared like a beast. With a face that is obviously young and a little immature, with straight facial features and short hair of spirit, at this moment, he is roaring with a murderous look. Only he himself knows that this is not only the unbelievable senior year of his career debut, the green passion of leading the team to reverse the desperate situation. There is also the anger that he has suppressed in his heart for half a year. OMG! OMG! Roda JC was completely blown away by the SBV elite team in 16 minutes at home. The 3-goal lead was tragically reversed by the opponent scoring 4 goals in a row. And all 4 goals were scored by the Chinese Streakershan, who came off the bench. The young player on loan from Barcelona made an incredible career debut. The most important thing is that the SBV elite team was going to experience a big rout on the road, but now they can go home with 3 points. This is crucial to their goal of avoiding relegation at the end of the season. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Lockhoff was so excited on the sidelines that he almost had a big snot bubble. The coaches embraced, and the players on the bench stood up and walked to the sidelines. Although they applauded subconsciously, they also looked at each other. They really didn't see how capable this kid was before. Unexpectedly, the hounds on the training ground turned into wild wolves on the field. Roda JC fans reacted and started booing wildly to express their dissatisfaction with the team. 3 goals at home. Being counter-killed by an opponent in less than 20 minutes? What else do you play? Let's go to work in an electronics factory. Atveldt's expression was extremely gloomy, and he was clearly suppressing his emotions as he gritted his teeth. Maybe I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, I couldn't help crying. Except for the goalkeeper, all the players of the SBV elite team rushed to Shen Feng's side, surrounded him, patted his body, touched his head, and praised him a few words. Shen Feng didn't mind, but when he walked back to halftime, compared to his full fighting spirit when he came off the bench, now he is already a bit high-spirited, and it is not obvious that he is a rookie who is easily panicked when he first enters the arena. Roda JC ran out of time. After the kickoff, a wave of strong attacks failed. After the ball was cleared by the SBV elite defensive players in the backcourt, the referee's final whistle sounded. The SBV elite team defeated Roda JC 4-3 away to get an important 3 points on the way to relegation. When Shen Feng walked towards the player tunnel, many teammates came over to shake hands with him and give him a hug, while Roda JC players and fans were watching him silently. as if they wanted to carefully examine him from all angles. Observe it again to see if he is a person after all. Shen Feng's expression relaxed, but his eyes were still very firm. In the eyes of the outside world, he is a young player from Barcelona on loan to the SBV elite team. But in fact, the media did not dig deep, nor were they interested in learning about it, and not many people would care. He is an outcast from Barcelona, sent to Holland to fend for himself. I am afraid that Barcelona did not expect that Shen Feng's belated career debut would stage such a shocking super reversal. The mountains and rivers are full of doubts and no way out. The Eredivisie debut is too eye-catching. The visiting team's locker room at Limburg Park. Shen Feng was not overjoyed because he scored his fourth goal in the game. Lockhoff's post-match training was obviously uncomfortable. Probably because he gave up at one point in the game, but not only did he survive in a desperate situation, but he also got 3 points by killing Roda JC at the last moment, which made him a little unsure of how to face his players. He praised the team lightly, reiterated that they still have 3 important relegation battles, and asked the team to remain focused and vigilant. After the coach left, the players glanced at Shen Feng intentionally or unintentionally. Perhaps as a lone player, Shen Feng's role as the savior also brought them embarrassment to a certain extent. Shen Feng went to take a shower as if nothing had happened, put on cheap sportswear, ordinary sneakers, put on a backpack, and left the locker room. When going to the parking lot and passing the mixed area of the stadium, many media reporters gathered around and handed the microphone to Shen Feng. The reporters were actually at a loss. They went to learn about Shen Feng's intelligence materials as soon as possible after the game. When they tentatively asked Shen Feng if he knew English, Shen Feng first corrected the reporter's address to him. "Don't call me Feng Shen, call me Shen or Feng or Shen Feng, you can." Hearing his words, the reporters were excited. This Chinese understands human language. When asked about the wonderful performance of the Big Four in the first show, Shen Feng looked calm but very firm. "I have been preparing for this day, and I finally made my professional debut today. I believe that today is a good start and will spur and motivate me to continue to work hard." Reporters are obviously more concerned about why he only got the chance today after being loaned to SBV Elite for more than 4 months. Shen Feng shook his head and said, "It's not up to me to decide whether I can play or not, so I can't answer this question." After the interview, Shen Feng walked to the parking lot. The reporters watched him leave. That is not a tall and mighty figure, dressed in ordinary or even simple dress, interpreting ordinary from beginning to end. I am afraid that if he is thrown on the street, no one will think how different he is. However, the 18-year-old player only took 15 minutes to make Roda JC, who was aiming to hit the Champions League playoff ticket area, lose face at home and become the laughingstock of the whole Netherlands this weekend. The second largest city in the Netherlands, Rotterdam. The SBV elite team is in this city. The port city built on the swamp, although Shen Feng has not browsed the museums, concert halls and galleries here, but in just a few months, he ran in the park at sunrise, practiced ball at the beach at sunset, and climbed to the beach. Go to the high point of the landmark building to overlook the city crisscrossed by the river, and watch the thousands of sails and waves at the seaside. Compared with the fierce competition in La Masia and the noise of football in the city, Rotterdam is irrelevant to Shen Feng but has a quiet life. Away from the old suburban community, Shen Feng returned to the small apartment he rented. The independent small bathroom, small wardrobe, single bed, less than 20 square meters of space is just a place for him to sleep and rest. After playing for about 30 minutes, Shen Feng didn't consume much, so he continued his fitness training according to his daily habits. At the age of 18, he has come to the third stage of persistence. The initial difficulty turned into numbness, and now it has become a habit. After Shen Feng finished his sit-ups in sweat, he picked up his phone while wiping away his sweat. "Maybe you should send a message to your parents. Tell them that he played a game today." When he sent a message to his father, there was no response for a long time. It is already early morning in China's time zone. But just after he took a shower, his mother sent him a message. Son, your dad stared at the computer last night while watching your game and shouting cheers. After the game, he talked about how great you are, and then kept saying that he should continue to work hard. In the middle of the night, he fried a plate of peanuts and drank half of it. Jin Erkuatu is now asleep. Mom doesn't know if you are doing well or not, but you must take care of yourself. Shen Feng lay on the bed after reading the message, and sent a message back to his mother. After looking up at the night sky outside the small window, Shen Feng closed his eyes and fell asleep. His eyes were full of persistence. Strange space. Shocking football. The encircling flag. The decadent Ronaldo. At the beginning of 2004, Manchester United CEO David Gill made a high-profile business expansion in Singapore, claiming that the Red Devils have more than 100 million fans in Asia. The rich and powerful all over Europe are envious. It doesn't matter if Manchester United has 100 million fans in Asia. The important thing is that Manchester United only used £3.5 million to introduce the Chinese player Dong Fangzhou, which further leveraged the Asian market, more channels of sponsorship income, and promoted the original sponsorship contract. Although Real Madrid counterattacked Manchester United to become the world's top football club in terms of revenue, Manchester United's business operation ability is obvious to all in the industry, and it is no exaggeration to call it an industry benchmark. Other giants can't do like Real Madrid to build a galaxy battleship, but it is common practice to imitate Manchester United to leverage the Asian market at a low cost. In the summer of the same year, the Chinese team achieved remarkable results in the World Youth Championship, and the Super Platinum generation was born in the words of the Chinese media. Major European teams have poached people, but they have encountered unprecedented difficulties. The Chinese club Lions asked for sky-high transfer fees, which discouraged European teams, and also made the Super Platinum generation have to stay in China and waste their youth. So European teams turned their attention to young players. Led by the giants, he started the staking campaign to search for young players to create commercial influence in Chinese football. In the autumn of 2004, the first batch of 15 Chinese players entered the youth teams of major European football teams. In the summer of 2005, Shen Feng became the second batch of Chinese players to enter European football, and he was also the most eye-catching, because his team was the La Liga giant Barcelona. Walking from Tianhai, China to La Masia, Shen Feng's father sold iron for him, almost ruining his family. Going abroad requires money, but before going abroad, if you want to enter the vision of being drafted by European teams, from the club echelon to the middleman who undertakes events in China, layer by layer, you need money. Being able to be drafted, it cannot be said that Shen Feng is very talented. It can only be said that among the same batch of drafted players, he is the most outstanding. Shen Feng still remembered how well he was treated when he came to La Masia. Club president Laporta personally gave him a jersey and talked to the media, declaring that he was optimistic that Shen Feng would fight for Barcelona at Camp Nou in the future. 16-year-old Shen Feng started his football career in Barcelona with the best and purest hopes. In order to integrate into Barcelona, he not only learned Spanish, but also Catalan. He has always given more than other peers. Trying to make myself a perfect part of that group except for physical features. Unpalatable food, he struggled to adapt. Gossip, he turned a deaf ear. Being racially discriminated against, he would comfort himself, "Don't waste time on scumbags." But even so, he did not get even a minute of playing time in the Barcelona B team. Stronger, not bad at speed, and solid in basic skills, Shen Feng never understood why he wasn't even worthy of garbage time. At the same time, he can see his idol every weekend, the Elf King from Brazil on the court wearing a Barcelona jersey and dancing magic steps to dump the world. He also saw the arrival of the Argentine talent who entered the first team shortly after his arrival. He lay on the bed in the dormitory again and again and imagined that the boy who could be carried by Ronaldinho would be himself. At the end of 2006, European powerhouses lost interest in Chinese players. Because looking back over the past 2 years, most of the players who went to Europe from China have returned to China. The European media ridiculed these Chinese players, they were like children in their infancy. One day they opened their home and came to the outside world. After only one look, they were frightened by the beasts and fled back home. They closed the door tightly and never dared again take a step forward. As a fertile ground for youth training in European football, La Masia has left a group of talented players headed by Leo Messi, and will soon have the next batch of talented players. In a team training match, Shen Feng slammed into the new Wang Boyang, who was favored by everyone and rolled to the ground. It was the third time he knocked over Boyang in a few months, and many other teammates couldn't bear him. Of physical devastation. After Boyang pushed down Shen Feng angrily, Shen Feng didn't have the patience this time. At that moment, he really suppressed to the limit. Go to the Catalan language of the horse, to the Spanish food of the horse, to the genius of the horse. One punch is enough to avoid 100 punches. He and Boyang scuffled together for only 1 minute, and then Shen Feng unilaterally beat up Boyang, who was screaming. When other people came to help, Shen Feng took it without fail. With such a nasty incident, Barcelona needs to have a say, especially since Bojan's father is also a Barcelona employee, a scout. Everything about Barcelona makes news in Catalonia. Shen Feng has become synonymous with failure. He is savage and rude, unable to understand the essence of Spanish football. Even La Masia, influenced by Cruyff's football philosophy, could not transform him from a primitive man to a modern man. The media's criticism of Shen Feng can be ignored. But when he continued to train as if nothing had happened, his teammates began to speak ill of him. Even the hypocritical demeanor is directly abandoned. What do you think you are? You are just the club's mascot to attract sponsors. If you are not Chinese, you are not even worthy to shine our shoes. You think you have strength, but in fact, you just learned a little bit, you are nothing. Those words hurt Shen Feng mercilessly. In order to get rid of Shen Feng's burden, Barcelona couldn't wait to loan him to the Netherlands during the winter break. Originally, they planned to leave him to PSV Eindhoven. The latter was willing to help, but they also disliked that Shen Feng might be an eyesore in the team, so they got their satellite club SBV Elite to loan Shen Feng. Shen Feng did not resist. At the end of the loan period, his contract with Barcelona will also expire. The moment he got on the plane and left Barcelona, he looked down at the diminishing ground through the window and locked his eyes on the landmark Camp Nou. He will definitely come back. The name Shen Feng made a sensation in Dutch football for the first time. But the heat didn't last long. People are more willing to believe that it is a magical phenomenon created by the superposition of luck and Roda JC's own problems. The head coach of the SBV elite team, Lok Hoff, has been focusing on Shen Feng's performance in training for several days. I thought that I had neglected Shen Feng's existence before, but I focused on it. The evaluation of Shen Feng is nothing more than that he is barely considered good among his peers. The world-renowned youth training in Dutch football is in Ajax. Shen Feng is evaluated based on Ajax's selection standard tips. In terms of technology and speed, Shen Feng's technology can only be said to be qualified, but his speed is on the average. Definitely not at the top. And personality may be able to bring extra points from his concentration and fighting spirit. The most difficult to evaluate wisdom can only be based on results, at least in training, you can't see eye-catching tricks. The conclusion is that with Shen Feng's current strength, he can play a substitute in the SBV elite team. Why didn't you use it before? Because he was on loan, and at the same time he had preconceived exclusions. The dark history of Shen Feng's newcomer Wang Boyang in La Masia is an unstable factor in Lok Hoff's view. For the SBV elite team, this strange loan deal was originally digested by time, and it will be forgotten naturally without causing any waves. However, with the severe relegation situation of the SBV elite team and Shenfeng's big 4-year reversal, Lokhoff began to really pay attention to Shenfeng's existence. April 15. The 32nd round of the Eredivisie League is coming, the penultimate round of the season. Shenfeng entered the SBV elite team's roster, but he did not change from a substitute to a starter. Woodstane Park. The SBV elite team played at home against relegation rival Valwerk. The two teams in the standings have the same points, but they are both in the relegation zone, ranking 16th and 17th. If they want to avoid relegation, they must overtake the opponents in front of the relegation zone. In this 6-point battle, a draw will definitely be a lose-lose for both teams. And the team that loses this game is very likely to announce that it can prepare for the relegation playoff in advance, because there are only 2 rounds left in the following league. Shenfeng sat quietly on the bench to watch the game. In the past week, he tried every means to re-enter the strange space, meditating, exhausting his overdraft, and even shouting at the seaside when no one was around, but in the end he failed. Success. Whenever he thought it might be a hallucination, but when he thought about his performance in the last match, he firmly believed that it was definitely a magical event that happened to him. The talent seems to have nothing to do with him, but at this time he will guess that maybe the countless stars who have become famous have actually been to that fantasy space and got the blessing of special abilities from them, and then staged incredible performances on the court. Amazing move. The game started. The stadium was relatively quiet, there was no loud cheering, and the overall poor performance of the season made the fans of the SBV elite team disappointed with the team, but the good thing about Dutch football is that even from the Eredivisie going back to the second league, it is impossible to be relegated from the second league. There is no relegation quota in the second league. The small stadium that can accommodate less than 5,000 people also reflects the club size of the SBV elite team, a real small team. Otherwise, it will not be attached to PSV Eindhoven as a satellite club. In this relegation battle, the SBV elite team is aiming to take all 3 points at home. Attacked at the start. Valwijck is also a small team. When he came to the away game, he decisively threw away the traditional flag of Dutch football. He tightened the fence and fought a defensive counterattack. The SBV elite team attacked vigorously but failed to score. The starting trident, Waskamp, Brabber, and Slory missed the opportunity one after another. The fans were impatient, and they kept casting curious glances at the home team's bench. Most of them didn't watch the last round of the league. Only a very small number of fans went to the away game to cheer, and they were the team's diehard fans. And most of them watched the game in front of the TV. But when they were behind by 3 goals, they all turned off the TV or switched channels, and didn't continue looking for abuse. As a result, after the game was over, those fans who didn't see the team's reversal could not wait to give themselves a slap in the face. I've had enough bitterness, but I didn't enjoy the sweetness at all. The rhythm was off. But anyway, I still watched the replay of the game carefully, entertained myself with hindsight, and then also remembered the amazing player Shenfeng. I thought I would see Shenfeng appear at home, but Lokhoff still let Shenfeng play as a substitute. When the team cannot attack for a long time, they will naturally think of Shenfeng. In the 31st minute of the game, Valwerk took the lead through a defensive counterattack. SBV Elite Team 0:1 behind to Valwerk at home. The atmosphere at Woodstane Park starts to get weird. The fans were still quiet, but it seemed like the quiet before the rainstorm. Lokhoff expressed dissatisfaction on the sidelines. In terms of the situation, the SBV elite team played an absolute advantage, but it was thunder and no rain, and the goal was as if they were only about to pierce a layer of window paper, but they couldn't find the position after poking around. At the end of the half-time, the players went back to the locker room to rest for a while. Shenfeng and other substitute players warmed up on the court. In the second half, the two sides changed sides and fought again. Shenfeng continued to sit on the bench. The mentality of the SBV elite team became impatient, and the attack quality was obviously inferior to the first half. Coach Lockhoff's frequent gestures to command the team to fight also revealed his impatience and unease. In the 58th minute of the game, Valwijck once again broke the goal of the SBV elite team through a quick counterattack. Lockhoff was so angry that he cursed his mother. He is full of grievances against Valwijck's anti-counterattack. Disgrace the face of our ancestors. In Dutch football, they have to hold high the banner of offensive football even if they die. This is their tradition. Play anti-reverse? Then you moved the club to Italy. In the last game, Roda JC locked the victory early. Lockhoff performed very calmly, and the opponent was indeed strong. He was going to the Champions League playoff area, but he was part of the relegation team. But today's relegation battle SBV elite team has home advantage. If they can't take it down, they deserve to be demoted. After yelling at the players' incompetence, Lockhoff gestured to the assistant coach on the bench. Substitution. Shen Feng was ordered by the assistant to warm up. Regarding the team's 2 goals behind, Shen Feng's mood was calm without any fluctuations. The life and death of the SBV elite team, whether they succeeded in relegation. He didn't care at all. All he cares about is his own chances. It's not that he is selfish. But from the first day he came here on loan, he could feel the club's distrust and indifference to him from all sides. Otherwise, he wouldn't be given a chance until the last round. He understands why the SBV elite team doesn't give its young players the same opportunity. Why waste it on loan players? At the end of the season, he will become a free agent. Now his goal is just to strive for a good performance so that he can find the best next home. If he does not get a contract with the new club, he will be sent home. Lockhoff's delay in not using Shen Feng also had this concern. After all, Shen Feng is not a member of the SBV elite team. But now in order to avoid relegation, he can't care too much about factors that have nothing to do with the game. In the 62nd minute of the game, Shen Feng came off the bench again. Different from the last game, this time Shen Feng replaced Waskamp. Lockhoff retained the main centre Brabber and the right winger Slory. The fans of the SBV elite team, who were already a little emotional and angry in the stands, instantly suppressed their anger. After all, the player who led the team to come back in the last round of senior year came on stage. Give him some face first. Let's see how he behaves. With full fighting spirit and abundant physical energy, Shen Feng was very active. The SBV elite team originally played on the right, and the Black Slory was the main attacker. His personal ability was outstanding in the team. As long as he controls the ball near the penalty area, he will fall into a situation of being surrounded and suppressed, so he can only choose to pass the ball to his teammates. Although his personal performance does not have the effect of breaking points, he can also form a tactical containment and screening effect. Brabber is a high centre forward, but he is thin at 193 centimeters. Dutch football emphasizes technology, so thinness is not an obstacle to survival. He was also closely guarded. Relatively speaking, players on the left wing can have a good space to play. This is also the reason why Waskamp was replaced. The best offensive environment failed to create more threats, and the missed at least 2 golden opportunities made Lockhoff angry. Shen Feng runs actively. If he is not absolutely sure of breaking through, he will pass the ball. And as long as he has the chance to shoot, he will force himself. Within 10 minutes of his debut, Shen Feng took 3 shots and missed 2 long shots. A shot from the penalty area was blocked by Valwijck goalkeeper Lemons. The performance can only be said to be slightly better than that of Weerskamp, but it has not produced a qualitative change. Lockhoff and the SBV elite fans are very concerned about Shen Feng's performance. Valwijck can't divide too many troops to deal with Shen Feng, otherwise they will definitely not let Shen Feng make waves. Shen Feng is getting better and better, the more he fights, the more courageous he becomes. The tough situation for the SBV elite was made even more difficult by the further strengthening of the defense by Valwerk. Slory and Brabber also have less room to play. Now the team can only beat Shenfeng strongly, allowing Shenfeng to get more and better opportunities. In the 74th minute of the game, when Shenfeng was in possession of the ball on the left, he was pinched by two defenders. Without trying to break through, he passed the ball diagonally back to the midfielder Bruins. After passing the ball, Shenfeng moved to the penalty area, hoping that Bruins could pass the ball back. But Bruins made a diagonal pass and sent the ball to the deep area on the left. Shenfeng turned his head to the left and saw fullback Destro assist. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. There's nothing wrong with Bruins' pass. Destro stopped the ball and adjusted a step to pass the ball to the left rib of the penalty area. Brabber was closely guarded, and Slory, who cut in early from the far point, also contained the surrounding defenders to contain them. On the contrary, Shenfeng, who came in behind, was unmarked when he took off against the ball in the left rib area of the penalty area. Good chance. The audience stared at him, and Lockhoff couldn't help clenching his fists. Come yet? Are you coming? Shenfeng tried his best to shake his head to attack the goal. But after knocking the ball out, the ball just refracted by his header and flew out less than 3 meters before hitting the Valwerk defender Bacons firmly on the chest. Bacons was immediately taken aback, caught off guard. Like a wall blocking the ball. The SBV elite fans looked confused. Look at it again. The near corner of the goal is the best choice, the top is off. But the next second, Shenfeng turned his head to the ground and saw that Bacons blocked the ball. He immediately ran in the direction of Bacons, and just took a step out, the football bounced off the ground. Shenfeng didn't even look at the goal, and instinctively swept the ball towards the goal. The center of gravity of Valwijk's goalkeeper Lemons just pressed down in the direction of the left goal post, but he stopped. The football flew into the goal against the inside of the left post. 1 second, his expression was still lost, but the next second, his voice broke. SBV elite fans finally vented their depression. Lockhoff, why did you let him be a substitute? A player who can stage a big 4 in 15 minutes, even a dog on a leash on the coach's bench knows that he closes his eyes and arranges the starter to lose the game and it's over. Yang handsome. Wow! Shenfeng came off the bench and scored in 2 consecutive games. Although he didn't have an impressive display of skills, he continued to create threats through diligent and aggressive running. This time, after shaking his head and attacking the goal, he accidentally got the opportunity to make a supplementary shot, and he made a decisive sweep to complete the goal. SBV Elite 1:2 Valwerk. There is still time for the game, the suspense of this relegation victory is back. After Shenfeng got up, he ran into the goal, picked up the ball in his arms, turned around and ran towards the midfield. Compared to igniting the whole team's passion in the final moments of the away game, when the earth-shattering cheers broke out at Woodston Park, the players of the SBV elite team were all in high spirits. The players in the front court took the initiative to run to Shenfeng, high-five him, and pat him on the back. Everyone showed a strong attitude, while Shenfeng, who was holding the football, showed a calm and confident demeanor. Don't care how the ball is scored, even if you stumble, as long as you can score goals, you are king. Putting the ball on the kickoff point in the middle circle, Shenfeng retreated to the outside of the middle circle, and immediately assumed a posture of preparation to start. He waited for the opponent to kick off the ball and immediately launched a counterattack. After cheering, the fans of the SBV elite team couldn't take their eyes off Shenfeng anymore. They only thought that the Chinese player's game spirit was exemplary. If everyone was like him, why would the SBV elite team be in the predicament of relegation? Lockhoff clapped and shouted on the sidelines for the team to make persistent efforts. At this time, he really regretted it. I regret not letting Shenfeng start. I regret not paying attention to Shenfeng's existence when he came to Rotterdam on loan. If time can be reversed, maybe they can now pre-sign a contract with Shen Feng, locking him in for at least the next 3 years for the team to destroy the city. It might be a little late now. No matter what the final result of the game is, he will suggest to the top management of the club to offer Shen Feng a contract after the game, allowing him to officially join the SBV elite team when his contract with Barcelona ends. The Valwerk team couldn't help but feel nervous. After kicking off, he returned the pass, and the positional battle was very sloppy. The long pass from the midfield and backcourt was more like a clearance. Shen Feng entered the front court to counterattack. After the opponent cleared the siege, he turned around and retreated in a small area. Just took 2 steps, when the eyes were dark. The familiar feeling reappeared. The whole world is swallowed by darkness. When the light appeared, he looked up at the sky, and the giant football with radiance came into view spectacularly. The flag is still surrounded below. The scene is the same as last week. The 4-line characters appear and then disappear. Competition level, C. Competition intensity, C. Consumption strength, E. Comprehensive assessment, D. Shen Feng shook his head slightly. If he is a starter, there should be some changes in the result of this rating, such as consumption intensity. He will definitely be able to pull up from the E level. Nay, he played too little time as a substitute. He didn't realize it himself, he had naturally accepted this strange space, and began to find ways to use it to better effect. After the 4-line characters disappeared, the speed of the national flag accelerated, and after a short period of time it suddenly became difficult to see the national flag picture. A golden light shot out from the rapidly rotating national flag and landed in front of Shen Feng. As the light faded and softened, a Brazilian flag appeared. Brazil again? Shen Feng suspects that Ronaldo will appear in front of him next. But Shen Feng was quite surprised that a sunny boy walked out of the flag. The boy wearing the shirt of Brazilian club Sao Paulo has a smile on his face. Name, Ricardo Isqueção Santos, right? Age, 18. Season, 2001. If Shen Feng did not admit his mistake, this boy with a long string of names is called in European football, Kaká. Good guy. The last game was Ronaldo, which went downhill. In this scene, Kaká, the son of God who just debuted, appeared. An inexplicable suction force made Shen Feng move towards the young Kaká. This time, he let his body obey the suction force. After all, resistance and struggle were useless. When he overlapped with Kaká's frontal figure, Shen Feng felt a little weird in his heart, but it was actually better than overlapping with the somewhat greasy Ronaldo. Just after the overlap was completed, the scene in front of him returned to normal. Woodstone Park. The game continues. Shen Feng's spirit is even more excited, as if he has the confidence to overflow the screen. When the SBV elite team started to attack, Shen Feng hit the ball one after another, and the success rate greatly increased. But Valwerk further strengthened the defense. Their gesture was to hold the last 15 minutes of the game. This made it more difficult for the SBV elite team to attack and encountered stronger resistance. When the teammates around Shen Feng were passing and receiving the ball, the attacking space was further squeezed, resulting in a continuous increase in the passing and receiving error rate. It is very difficult to successfully play the pass and cut. Lockhoff has been yelling at Warwick on the sidelines. This game cannot be lost. If they lose, they will be overtaken by Valwerk, and relegation will become slim. Although Shen Feng can pass the ball to his teammates without making mistakes, when he enters the penalty area again, his teammates cannot deliver the ball to his feet. After repeatedly responding from the perimeter and then entering the penalty area to grab points, but failed to pose a threat, Shen Feng realized that this style of play would not work. The SBV elite fans in the stands were also furious. It seems that the team is attacking wildly, and the bamboo basket is empty. Valwerk's defense was united, and the compression of space caused the SBV elite team to pass and penetrate repeatedly without success. Even though they were only making frequent clearances, they failed to create a counterattack threat. But when there were less than 10 minutes left in the game, they seemed to have given up their offense. As long as they could get a life-saving 3 points, it didn't matter whether they won 1 or 2. After the opponent made another clearance, Shen Feng thought calmly when he retreated. In the tough battle, you want to break through the dense defense. Personal breakthrough, long-range shot, and set piece are the conventional three-pronged axe. As a small team, the SBV elite team does not have much experience in attacking tough situations, because it is impossible for them to take advantage of the situation in the contest with the big team, and they are passively beaten most of the time. Therefore, in the face of Valwerk, the whole team showed a sense of powerlessness and confusion. Kaka has brought better technical improvement to Shen Feng. The basic skills of passing and receiving and awareness of movement have allowed him to lead his teammates by a large margin in the past 10 minutes. But this style of play requires great team performance to generate explosive team chemistry. Now he needs to switch his mind. In the 84th minute of the game, when Shen Feng received a pass from midfielder Velasco in the retreat, he did not take another shot. Even if he saw Destro who was running, he knew that most of the final result of passing the ball was that the attack ended without a hitch. He dribbled the ball to the middle and completed the turn. When he faced the penalty area of Valwerk, the guards and midfielders of Valwerk looked at him and seemed to be wary of his passing and movement. But Shen Feng started to dribble forward, increasing his speed. In 3 steps, the speed soared to the level of the peak, and it was like a racing car in high-speed dribbling. A strong wind blows. This feeling seems to make every drop of blood in Shen Feng's body begin to boil happily and excitedly, and every pore exudes an air of fun and madness. The improvement in ball handling skills allows him to better display his speed. And this height has never been reached before. Unfamiliar and makes him infinitely excited. Shan Yu's unshakable determination made him instantly control a brand new power. Warwick's midfield defender in front of the penalty area was shocked. They have been vigilant about Shen Feng's passing and movement before. That is what Shen Feng has been doing since his debut. His playing style cannot get rid of the influence of La Masia. The priority of passing control philosophy is the team. Passing is to improve the ability of passing and running at each point to form an overall advantage. But at this moment, Shen Feng seemed to have broken free from the previous bondage. After opening the shackles, a beast broke out of the prison. Encountered by the instinctive interceptions of 2 defenders one after another, Shen Feng's dribbling speed did not decrease. He swiped the ball straight and changed the direction of the ball. The continuous change of direction within a small range made Shen Feng look like he had passed an scurve as he approached the restricted area of Valwijk. The fans in the audience were extremely shocked and stared attentively at Shen Feng, who had already dribbled to the front of the penalty area. Warwick's guard lineman was obviously caught off guard, and immediately closed the door with a bit of panic and made a mistake. Yuyuganshu www.yuyuganshu.com blocked Shen Feng's front line and space. Shen Feng decisively kicked the door before the front passage was closed by the opponent. The ball from the right foot passed between the 2 centre-backs. He flew straight towards the lower right position in the middle of the goal. Valwerk goalkeeper Lemons subconsciously fell to the ground to save, but Shen Feng's ball was heavy and the ball was extremely fast. Although the angle was not tricky, it also prevented Lemons from holding the ball immediately. Save and let go. The blocked football just popped out of the small penalty area, and a black whirlwind swept past. Slory shot the ball into the middle of the goal. The Woodstane Park Stadium is boiling in an instant. Slory rushed into the goal, picked up the football, and held it in his arms. He also raced against the clock to retreat towards the midfield, and at the same time gave Shen Feng a thumbs up. But Shen Feng didn't see it. After seeing his teammates make a supplementary shot, he turned around and trotted to the backcourt. Most of the fans of the SBV elite team raised their arms and cheered, and most of them focused their attention on Shen Feng again. I can't see through this young Chinese player. Warwick generals are all incredible. The Tugoal lead was wiped out. Shen Feng's substitute appearance played a role that cannot be ignored. Lockhoff clenched his fist and waved it fiercely, and then shouted even louder, telling the players to hurry up and try to score another goal to win the game. If it ends in a draw, it will be a lose-lose result for both teams. Must win. The SBV elite team, who had been performing very badly all season, finally saw a light in the darkness. And the person who cut through the dark sky turned out to be a lone player they never dreamed of. Shen Feng. Woodstain Park. SBV Elite 2:2 Valwerk. The atmosphere at the scene has become unprecedentedly hot. It seems that the fans will completely vent the enthusiasm they have accumulated throughout the season. Valwerk is a little bit clueless. A draw score is definitely unacceptable for them. If you can't win the game, even if you hold on to a draw, you will just hug the SBV elite team and die together. Then they might meet in the relegation playoff. The regular league is not over yet, and they will definitely not give up. Warwick coach Mark Walter gritted his teeth with hatred. Shen Feng caught them off guard by the disruption of the game and the intuitive effect it brought. Any time in the replay of the last game in which Roda JC suffered a comeback at home, it can be found that Roda JC relaxed too early to underestimate the enemy, and then Shen Feng's amazing feat of 4 goals in 15 minutes was achieved. But today Shen Feng showed a different ability from the last match. Before he made a threat, no one would have expected that he was not just magical. A player with such a strong comprehensive strength, even if Lockhoff lived in the donkey ring and was repeatedly kicked on the head by the donkey's hoof, he should not be able to use it to beat the backhand. The reason is simple. The SBV elite team is not a strong team full of talents. Standing in the middle circle, Shen Feng became arrogant again, exuding a domineering aura. From his debut to his second appearance as a substitute, he always stood tall and straight. He wasn't like that in the past. Until he recognized the cruel European football. As a yellow race, it can be said that he is at the bottom of the chain of contempt. The humility that Chinese tradition pays attention to here will not win respect, but will only allow more people to trample on his bottom line. When he becomes the focus, he not only has to remain strong in momentum, but also hypnotize himself. You can be so awesome. In the past 10 minutes, Shen Feng realized that the technical improvement of pass and cut is only the primary level, and the correct way to open Kaka is to ride against the wind. Valwerk kicked off the ball, and their tight defense was loosened a bit, because they began to strengthen their offense and were eager to stage a lure at the last minute. But they were playing defense against counterattacks throughout the game, and they played the positional battle in a mess. In the front court, he made a mistake when he was under pressure from the SBV elite team's defense. In the 86th minute of the game, Shen Feng received a pass from the wing of Drost from the left front of the middle circle. After leading the ball and turning around, Shen Feng immediately started to dribble, speeding up to the peak in the shortest possible time. Shen Feng, who was watching in the eyes of the audience, seemed to have entered a runaway mode. No one thinks he is a lone wolf, at least at this time. The players on the SBV elite team are willing to hand over the ball to him. Let's see what earth-shattering things he can do. Shen Feng completely released himself, soaring speed and dribbling to break through, without the slightest bells and whistles. When encountering defense, it was either swiping the ball or spiking the ball to change direction. Just these two moves, but the rhythm of the direction change and breakthrough is well grasped, and the route selection is also very suitable. Defenders often pass him by failing to keep up with his speed when twisting. Lockhoff was stunned from the sidelines. In his mind, Shen Feng, whose speed could only be considered to be at the mid to high level, gave him a feeling at this moment. Shen Feng, faster and faster. The combat power is getting stronger and stronger. Warwick has shifted his defense focus to Shen Feng in a short period of time. As a result, Shen Feng encountered a blockade when he dribbled and broke through to the vicinity of the penalty area. Shen Feng made 2 long shots in succession and was blocked by the defender. At this time, midfielder Ruix showed a calm side. In the 90th minute of the game, Shen Feng was forced to pass the ball diagonally to the left in front of the penalty area. Ruxas followed up and immediately passed the ball diagonally to the right. After the opponent's defensive intensity against him decreased, Slory also went out to sea like a dragon. He accelerated the breakthrough from the outside and directly penetrated the Valwerk wing defense area, and then turned inside and slammed the ball into the penalty area. The Valwerk defense line immediately adjusted to expand the block. Slory preempted the ball near the bottom line. The 193-centimeter Brabber grabbed some points in front of the goal. The goal was close at hand, and the football flew in. He suddenly shook his head and attacked the goal. This is a must-goal chance. All SBV Elite fans have raised their arms to celebrate. But the next second, their raised arms turned into hugging their heads. Brabber's golden opportunity is just around the corner. The football rubbed above the crossbar and flew out of the bottom line. Lockhoff's eyes widened. Eyes full of sluggishness, almost died on the spot. The Valwerks will be relieved. Escaped. The generals of the SBV elite team couldn't help but show their disappointment. Shen Feng did not change his face. There was no change in his heart. He is fighting for himself. Brabber's performance has nothing to do with him. Brabber himself showed remorse, and he didn't seize this opportunity, which was equivalent to dropping his worth hundreds of thousands of euros. Injury time comes. 3 minutes. Even though Brabber and Slory are the main force of the SBV elite team. However, Shen Feng did not trust them. The reason is also simple. If they were strong, the SBV elite would not be one of the Eredivisie's goalkeepers, nor would they be stuck in relegation in a league that advocates attacking football. Valwerk became more struggling on the offensive end, and his restless mentality combined with the unwillingness of being equalized, which made their already unremarkable positional warfare even more chaotic, like a headless fly. The dead end will start a few kicks. In the last minute of injury time, Shen Feng received a pass from his teammate Bruins again in front of the middle circle. When he adjusted his direction and started to dribble and dash forward, the Valwerk back line was still down, and the 3 players in the midfield defense looked at him with fear already. It seems to be saying silently, "Don't come here." Someone from the side came to press, and Shen Feng suddenly accelerated the ball to get rid of it. If you observe carefully, you will find that in less than 10 minutes, Shen Feng's ability to control the ball and break through is still improving. From the very beginning, he charged at full speed like an arrow from the string, and when the game was about to end, he had already started to use the speed change to play a bad rhythm to make the opponent lose. When he faced the second defender, the opponent cautiously scrambled forward, but Shen Feng chose to pass the ball. Pass the ball across to the right. After the ball is released, bypass the defender and move forward. Ruxas followed up, took the ball and then looked for Shen Feng. On the other hand, Shen Feng shot the ball decisively in front of the last defensive midfielder. The football rolls forward. After the ball was released, he continued to move forward. Brabber responded with his back, stopped the ball, and knocked horizontally. Shen Feng swept past him like a whirlwind, and while stopping and taking his speed into the penalty area, he also penetrated the entire back line of Valwerk. Because Valwerk's back line just now focused more on Brabber and Slory. This time, Shen Feng used the method of passing, cutting, and rushing to catch them by surprise, and it was too late to make adjustments. After Shen Feng smashed through the Valwerk defense line, he glanced at the position of goalkeeper Lemons in the right rib area of the penalty area, then broke his foot and slammed the goal. Twisting his body to the left, he swings his right leg and hits the ball to the far corner of the goal with the instep. The SBV elite fans were both suppressed excitement and full of anticipation. Lemons saw the football like a white rainbow swept past not far in front of him, and made a save subconsciously, but when he made the save, most of his heart was already cold. "Can't touch it." Before the man had landed, the earth-shattering cheers of Woodstone Park had already revealed the result to him. The football hits the side net in the far corner of the goal. Shen Feng. He went in. He shot. The ball went in. Lore. Shen Feng scored twice and came off the bench for 2 consecutive rounds to stage a lore. Today he will be the focus of the Eredivisie again. Shen Feng's shocking performance in 2 consecutive rounds makes people doubt the use of Lockhoff. Why didn't such a player use it earlier? Why not start 2 rounds off the bench and scored 6 points for the SBV Elite team? If the SBV Elite team can successfully avoid relegation at the end of the season, then the biggest contributor deserves to be Shen Feng. And his 2 rounds of substitute appearances totaled 6 goals in about 65 minutes. It's a long-lost goal miracle in the Eredivisie. Maybe in the near future, we will see him in the Barcelona team. Shen Feng turned around and rushed to the sidelines after scoring the goal. With his clenched fists vibrating repeatedly, he is releasing all his passion. The deafening cheers, like the stands where the sea is boiling, every face that is distorted and even distorted, this is the passion of the green field. As a professional player, he began to enjoy it all. After scoring a goal and running wildly, this can never be experienced anywhere else. But, the premises don't go astray. Shen Feng realized that he had made a fatal mistake when he stopped in the corner of the court. Yu reading www.uuganshu.com. He raised his fists and roared in celebration, but when he shouted, he realized that something was wrong. The fans in the stands in front of him stared at him with murderous expressions on their faces. They have no carnival, no celebration, only anger on their faces. This is strayed? He ran to the stands of the fans of the away team. Suddenly, an empty mineral water bottle flew over. If Shen Feng didn't hide, the water bottle would definitely hit him on the head. At this time, how could Shen Feng, whose posture was as strong as a tiger, hide? If this were to hide, wouldn't all previous efforts be forfeited? He smashed the flying mineral water bottle into the air. Shen Feng let out a roar again. This is completely provocative in the eyes of Warwick fans. You step on the horse with a white knife in and out with a red knife, stab us to the ground without saying anything, and then run around and sprinkle salt on the wound. This is too much. There are more mineral water bottles flying in. Shen Feng was a little cowardly. But he didn't want to weaken his momentum. Fortunately, at this time, Slory and Brabber rushed to his side and pulled him back to the court. Stay away from the stands of the visiting fans. Going down the stairs, Shen Feng was naturally pulled back by the 2 teammates. If it wasn't for his teammates, he really wanted to challenge whether he could fly dozens of mineral water bottles with his bare hands. Lockhoff jumped on the sidelines, applauding and laughing. SBV Elite 3:2 Val Werk. Regardless of whether Shen Feng is a lucky general or a surprise soldier, the 2 rounds of the league helped the team grab the crucial 6 points on the way to relegation, allowing him to conquer the coach, teammates and fans in the shortest time possible. Warwick is running out of time. After they hurriedly launched a fast break after kickoff, the SBV Elite team defended and blocked the opponent's offensive from outside the penalty area. After controlling the ball, the SBV Elite team dropped the tempo to kill time. Val Werk's counterattack was also unsuccessful. The SBV Elite team played a symbolic last wave of offensive. Slory was destroyed by the opponent on the right side of the front court. The ball went beyond the touchline. The final whistle sounded. There was another burst of cheers at Woodstane Park. The fans stood up and applauded. 2 goals behind, 3 goals reversed. Win the most crucial relegation battle. Although this game cannot guarantee that the SBV Elite team will come ashore, it has sunk Warwick to 30,000 miles underwater. Valwich has secured a place in the relegation playoffs ahead of schedule. This time, Shen Feng showed a smile after the game because he heard many fans in the stands chanting his name in unison. Shen! 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 Shen Feng raised his hands above his head and applauded to the fans. Exited in high spirits. The teammates came to touch his head one after another, and praised him with a smile. Ruix hugged him and said, you should consider staying here, the fans have fallen in love with you. Destro asked him, will you go back to Barcelona? Why don't you stay here? It should be difficult to get playing time in Barcelona. Maybe only Wascombe looked sad in the whole team. Lockhoff, who once again experienced a miraculous reversal, was somewhat overexcited. In an interview after the game, he commented on Shenfeng's performance and said casually, we will definitely give him a contract and expect him to stay at Woodstone Park for a long time. After saying that, he regretted it. Misfortune comes out of the mouth. He is equivalent to announcing to the all Eredivisie teams a situation that the outside world may not know, Shenfeng will soon become a free agent. In this case, the SBV elite team can open a contract, and other teams can still. How could they turn a blind eye to the magical boy who scored 6 goals in 2 rounds off the bench? Shenfeng's name once again caused a sensation in the Eredivisie. And the wonderful performance of 2 consecutive rounds, even if it is accidental in the eyes of other teams, there are definitely inevitable factors. When Shenfeng returned to the apartment, he received a call from his father. Shen Zhenghao was already drinking a little high, and he guessed that it was another plate of peanuts and half a caddy of ercuatu. Shenfeng listened quietly. It was Shen Zhenghao who was always talking. From witnessing his excitement of the game and scoring goals, to revealing his heart, sometimes he regretted letting him go abroad alone, suffering from longing. When Shenfeng hung up the phone, Shen Zhenghao's voice had not been heard for a long time on the other end of the phone, and he was probably asleep. Shenfeng looked at the cheap Nokia in his hand, and the corner of his mouth rose slightly. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, I was able to make up the appearance of my father's drunken gaffe. The next day, the team will have restorative training in the afternoon. In the morning, Shenfeng has had breakfast and trained step by step. He will go for a jog in the park. Just as he was about to go out, he received another call from China. An acquaintance, Sister Wang. The agent who originally accompanied him to Barcelona. I haven't had much contact for the past 6 months. On the phone, Sister Wang had a warm attitude and asked for warmth. Xiao Feng, I'll buy you a plane ticket to return to China, and I'll contact you with the domestic club. When you come back, you can sign a contract, and you can get 500,000 yuan immediately. Listen to my sister. After 2 years of experience in China, you can go abroad again. You are better off. Sister Wang, if I don't find my next home before June 30th, I can only go back to China, but if I find a new club, I will continue to stay here. Xiao Feng, don't be willful, you listen to me. I won't listen to you anymore, you haven't helped me, there is only a deal between us, I didn't have a choice before, now I have my own choice, I won't be at your mercy, I don't want a word of your words. Listen. Back home? My parents gambled their half-life savings to be exploited by you, not because they wanted me to stay in the country. Don't contact me in the future. The young and vigorous Shenfeng is naturally unable to be sophisticated and smooth. Yesterday he was promised a new contract by head coach Lockhoff. In other words, he can definitely not go back to China now. The last time, he can continue to stay in the SBV elite team. When he went to Barcelona, he was still an ignorant teenager. Living abroad for nearly 2 years, he has also learned a lot about some dark things in the football circle. For example, many black-heart agents in Europe would sell players from the African continent. They emptied some families' savings, but took their children to the streets of Europe and ignored them, playing with the dreams of those children. In the end, many children became no one cares about the black households on the streets of Europe. This phenomenon also exists in Chinese football, the difference is that they are not able to play cross-border transactions, but it is not uncommon to sell professional echelon places to families with football dreams. Shenfeng has no resentment, the world is like this, the fittest survive. Even if he can comfort himself, at least he got a chance, not after going bankrupt and finding out that he has experienced a scam. Take your Walkman and go out for a run. Shen Feng is a little excited, everything is getting better, he wants to strike while the iron is hot to make the future better. When he returned to the apartment at noon, his t-shirt was soaking wet, but the sweating made him happy all over. A stranger came to the door. A self-recommended broker. He claimed to be able to get a contract for him in 20, and even the contract treatment was written clearly. The condition is that as long as Shen Feng hires him as his agent, he can immediately take him to 20 to sign a contract. Shen Feng left the contact information of the other party. In 2 days, he met 5 strangers, the same routine, different clubs. 20, Alkmaar, Groningen, Roda JC, Heerenveen. Lockhoff also talked to him again, expecting him to stay at Woodstein Park. Holds invitations from 6 clubs. Shen Feng has more confidence. This made him work harder in training as well. On Wednesday afternoon, Lockhoff left Shen Feng after training. Shen Feng originally thought that Lockhoff was still playing Three Guess the Cottage, but found that Lockhoff took him to the office and introduced a stranger to Shen Feng. Sporting director of PSV Eindhoven. The other party also invited Shen Feng to join PSV Eindhoven. Shen Feng was somewhat surprised by Lockhoff's attitude. But on second thought, PSV Eindhoven probably wanted to sign him and then loan him to SBV Elite, which is the former satellite club at any time. No wonder Lockhoff was not angry at all and acted as a middleman. Shen Feng was very stable. She still just left her contact information and didn't make a statement. So far, he has been contacted by unknown people, and he has no energy to verify whether it is true or not. However, the sports director of PSV Eindhoven came forward in person, which is more reliable and guaranteed. And the contract treatment given is far higher than other clubs. The monthly salary is €5,000. PSV Eindhoven is backed by the Philips Group, and naturally has a commercial promotion strategy. This is also the reason why they dispatched such an important staff member of the sports director to personally invite Shen Feng. After training on Thursday afternoon, Shen Feng ate dinner at the club restaurant after retraining for a while. When the lights were first turned on, he walked back to the downstairs of the small apartment and saw a Porsche logo parked on the side of the road, but he could not recognize the model. Style sports car. Shen Feng didn't take it seriously either. Rotterdam, the second largest city in the Netherlands, has seen a lot of luxury cars, but it's not something he can afford, and he's not interested in learning about it too much. Just as he was about to go upstairs, the car window fell and the horn blared. He looked back at the Porsche and saw a fat man sitting in the driver's seat. He was wearing sunglasses and pointed out slightly, saying, "Shen, you know who I am?" Shen Feng took a closer look, a little familiar. After taking 2 steps closer and observing carefully, he asked tentatively, "Rayola?" The fat man nodded and said, "How about I invite you to dinner?" Shen Feng naturally knew that this was not as simple as having a casual meal. He got into the passenger seat, probably the first time in his life to sit in a luxury car. He moved cautiously, as if he was cautious about breathing. Rayola said lightly after he fastened his seat belt, "Don't be so nervous, you will have your own sports car soon." The sports car started, and Rayola was just chatting with him about Holland along the way. Shen Feng was able to recognize him, thanks to the Serie A phone door last year. Juventus was fined and relegated. Rayola made a sensation when he operated Juventus star Ibrahimovic to transfer to National Milan. Rayola has been criticized by thousands of people, but it has brought a lot of benefits to Ibrahimovic. I have heard before that Ronaldo, an alien, was in a lawsuit with his agent and was squeezed and exploited. I also heard that Pelé was defrauded by his agent and almost went bankrupt. It is rare for an agent like Rayola to criticize the club in unison, but with a strong relationship with the player. Although Rayola is active in Italian football, he actually started in the Netherlands because his family moved to the Netherlands when he was a child. Initially, he also participated in the transfer transactions of many Dutch stars. Rijkaard went to AC Milan, Bergkamp went to Arsenal, etc. Raiola took Shenfeng to a high-end restaurant. After Shenfeng had dinner, Raiola placed an order at will. Raiola took the initiative to talk and asked Shenfeng what kind of invitations he had received. Shenfeng told the truth. He believed in Raiola's energy, and the invitations he held were no secret at all. Raiola then gave him big news. As soon as this weekend, Barcelona will offer you a new contract. Will you accept it? Do you want to go back to Barcelona? Shenfeng, who is actually still a Barcelona player, was suddenly shocked. After a moment of silence, he nodded and said, I want to go back to Barcelona, but not now, nor in this way. Reading www.uuganshu.com. Raiola continued, in a short period of time, the sensation you created once overshadowed the popularity of Alfonso Alves, Huntelaar, Sneijder, Koevermans and other stars. I am very optimistic about you. You need a professional and powerful agent. I charge a lot of money, but I can arrange everything for you except that I can't train for you or play for you. Even if you want to get married, I will introduce you to 100 candidates. The premise is a girl. If you are gay, then I can only help you keep it a secret. Most importantly, I can bring you more financial benefits than anyone else. That's why I'm expensive. Shenfeng did not change his face and said, You can't make me blindly believe you because of your fame. If what you said is true, you should prove it to me. Raiola nodded slightly. It's fair, you wait for my news, don't sign a contract with any other club, because I guarantee you don't have enough ability to distinguish the traps in the contract at all. I'm in a hurry. At the end of the season, I have to find my next home. You can rest assured that I am very efficient, but you have to make sure not to slack off and relax, stay focused on football, strengthen training, and give everything to play. Child, your career has just started, don't be carried away by the temporary success in front of you, your goal should be a bigger stage. Shenfeng looked at Raiola and smiled without saying a word. This broker seems to be somewhat different from what the outside world has described. But he won't lose his rationality after a few mouthfuls of ecstasy soup. There is no rabbit and no eagle. Let's see how efficient he is before making decisions. Raiola's prediction was confirmed when game day arrived on Saturday. Barcelona played the emotional card directly. Through Shenfeng's family, it is expected to complete the contract renewal with Shenfeng. Because they couldn't contact Shenfeng directly, Shenfeng had already cut off the connection with Barcelona. On the way to the away game to challenge Hercules by bus, Shenfeng was sitting in the corner of the back row of the bus, holding a mobile phone and talking to his father, Shen Zhenghao. Dad, they said it nicely, but they didn't make any promises. I already have at least 6 invitations from Dutch clubs, and I can go to anyone I want. You really don't think about Barcelona? That's your dream. Once. Dad, my future will be decided in the next 10 days, trust me, I will handle it. After hanging up the phone, Shenfeng abandoned his distracting thoughts. Today he got the chance to start. Lockhoff has announced the starting lineup at the pre-match preparation meeting. No one cared about Waskamp's sullenness. Shenfeng is about to make his first start in his career. Pullman Stadium. The 33rd round of the Eredivisie. The home team Hercules ranked only one place higher than the SBV Elite team, leading by 1 point. This means that if the SBV Elite team can take away a victory from the away game in this game, then they will overtake Hercules and leave the relegation zone. Another crucial relegation battle. When the starters of the two teams made their debut, Shenfeng became the focus of attention at the Pullman Stadium with nearly 10,000 spectators. 6 goals in 2 rounds. This performance is enough to shock the Eredivisie. It is not surprising that the major teams in the Eredivisie are now competing for Shenfeng. As the starter, Shenfeng was full of fighting spirit. He still maintained the anger that had always existed in his heart, and would not let himself relax. He believes that as a professional player, the flame of anger in his heart is beneficial to him. Ability to stay focused and more aggressive on the court. The Hercules members also secretly paid attention to Shen Feng before the game. The latter's serious expression and sharp and bright eyes were indeed somewhat different in temperament. Hercules coach Broad is also very concerned about Shen Feng's state. The SBV elite team, which had already fallen into the abyss, came back to life after 2 rounds of mad chasing for 6 points. This momentum should not be underestimated, and Shen Feng was the key player in revitalizing the stagnant water of the SBV elite team. Hercules is also fighting for relegation. As long as they cannot lose to the SBV elite team at home, then they can at least continue to be outside the relegation zone before the final game, but their pressure is that not only can they not lose to the SBV elite at home team, in the final battle, we have to face Rota JC, who is aiming to reach the Champions League qualifying playoff area. Shen Feng started as a left winger and joined hands with Braber and slowly to attack. When the game started, Shen Feng ran actively, expecting to perform well in the game from the beginning. But the defensive situation he faced was not optimistic. Hercules focused his defense on him. Continuing to encounter at least 2 people's pincers, it is difficult to have a good response environment, or the opponent is violently and continuously pressed by the opponent just after the ball is in control. Shen Feng failed to make the expected threat, and even made a lot of mistakes. The 3 midfielders of the SBV elite team, Bruins, Ruiz, and Velasco, initially played ball for Shen Feng actively. Later, it was discovered that Shen Feng's left lane was completely ineffective. It cannot be said that Shen Feng has many problems, only the opponent's targeted defense has suppressed Shen Feng's performance. Hercules and the SBV elite team fought fiercely in the midfield from the beginning of the game. Under the stalemate to Gulf War, both teams tried to break through the midfield to avoid too much entanglement in the midfield area. The attack method is a little simple, and the SBV elite team clearly attacked Shen Feng's left, which caused it to hit the gun a bit. Seeing that 30 minutes passed, Shen Feng showed no threat. Broad gradually felt relieved. It seems that the main reason for his miraculous performance in the past 2 rounds of the league is the contempt of his opponents. Once he pays attention to his existence and makes targeted deployments, he will not be able to make any waves. The fast break of the SBV elite team was useless. Hercules, however, seized the opportunity in the 35th minute to break through their defense and score. The SBV elite team trailed 0-1 away. Shen Feng began to feel a little restless. This is completely different from the starting battle he expected. The Hercules fans cheered and celebrated, leaving Shen Feng behind. I can't see that Shen Feng has a show of ball control, it's just an ordinary player's level. After losing the ball, Shen Feng's impatience became more and more obvious. In the 41st minute of the game, he kicked the ball 30 yards from the goal outside the penalty area. An anti-aircraft gun made the audience look up at the soccer ball that was rushing to the sky. The Hercules fans then burst into laughter. "Look, that kid is in a hurry." The SBV elite fans who came to the away game sighed and continued to cheer for the team. After the first half of the game, the players of both teams returned to the locker room for a short rest. Lockhoff went straight to Shen Feng during the midfield lecture, looked down at him and said seriously, "This is professional football, when you perform well, the opponent will definitely deploy defensive arrangements against you. You have to learn to serve the team and better control the rhythm of the game. Hercules is focusing on marking you. You can't just focus on the football and the goal, you also need to see your teammates and see the overall situation. Understand?" Shen Feng looked up at Lockhoff. To be honest, he was not grateful to Lockhoff at all, because the other party didn't value him from the beginning. If he could be treated equally, with his performance in training, he would have been able to get the opportunity to come off the bench long ago. But as far as the matter is concerned, at this moment, the head coach who has been criticized by the media and fans all season seems to be online. Calm down and think about it carefully, Lockhoff's words made him enlightened. After Lockhoff finished the chicken soup for the team, the two teams returned to the court to change sides. Hercules has obviously become a little conservative, but he is still resolute against the fast break. Shen Feng began to actively retreat and respond. After hitting the ball with one kick, he turned around and smashed the opponent's defense line to achieve a containment effect. He was asked by the coach to do this kind of work in La Masia for more than a year. He is like a trick to accompany the prince to study on the La Masia training ground, and it is other more talented players who can really stand out. Shen Feng's containment and cover brought some help to the SBV elite team's offensive situation. In the 53rd minute of the game, he returned the ball from the left and moved forward, attracting the surrounding defensive players to besiege him. The midfielder Bruins and Ruxas passed the ball too quickly to the right flank. Slory made a cross immediately after cutting in. Brabber outflanked the goal and grabbed the spot. This time, he didn't miss the chance again. He shook his head and sent the ball into the upper right corner of the goal. SBV Elite equalized the score. The morale of the whole army is lifted. Lockhoff shouted passionately, the fans also raised their arms and shouted, the players on the field high-five each other, full of firm belief in winning the game. The momentum of the SBV Elite team is crazy. Then the scene of the game changed a bit. The SBV Elite team began to press Hercules to launch a furious attack, but Hercules seemed to have a premeditated defensive counterattack. A draw is perfectly acceptable for Hercules. The SBV Elite team fell into the quagmire of attacking fortifications again. The tactical thinking was very well organized. Shen Feng restrained the transfer, and Slory and Brabber took turns to attack. The scene also played an advantage. However, it is difficult to create better opportunities when the chances are close. On the contrary, it was Hercules who scored two consecutive defensive counterattacks in the 62nd and 69th minutes of the game. When the score became 3-1, the visiting SBV Elite team calmed down. 2 goals behind, to get back 3 goals, I'm afraid it will be another hellish difficulty. If they can't tie the score, they will announce that they will enter the preparations for the relegation playoffs one round earlier. I have to say that the SBV Elite team played with passion on the scene in the past period of time. The rhythm is fast and the coordination is smooth. But after the passion, there is not only emptiness, but also the pain of being opened 2 goals by the opponent. Lockhoff is desperate. Under such circumstances, do you still expect Shen Feng to descend to earth? The change of Shen Feng's style in the second half has already made Lockhoff invaluable. No matter how extravagantly hoped he would ride the savior alone, no one in the world would believe that he could fight a path under the intensive defense of Hercules. The game began to slow down, and the morale of the SBV Elite team suffered. Hercules expects a smooth ending, announces the success of the relegation 1 round in advance, and they can happily welcome the summer vacation. The situation that the building was about to collapse made Shen Feng feel a sense of powerlessness. But in the 75th minute of the game, his consciousness fell into darkness. Shen Feng became excited again. A huge football that almost covers the sky. Circular rotating national flags. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. A strange space that is like nothing but feels real. The 4-line characters appear and disappear again. Competition level, C. Competition intensity, C. Consumption intensity, B. Overall rating, C. There has been a change. Compared with the past 2 times, his consumption intensity has increased from E to B today, which has led to the overall evaluation from D to C. This made Shen Feng look forward to whether there will be very strong players in the future. A golden light descended from the sky. The light fades away. Still Brazil. But when it comes to football, who doesn't love Brazil? If it was his idol who came out of the flag, he might go crazy. As he was looking forward to it, a short player came out of the flag. Shen Feng knew who it was without looking at his name. Defender with guns, Robert Carlos. Just looking at his face, he is still very young. However, the opponent wearing Inter Milan's jersey indicates that he has at least left Brazil to compete in the top league. It must be much better than Kaká, who just debuted in Brazil in all aspects. Age, 22. Season, 1995-1996. Shen Feng took the initiative to walk towards Carlos and deliberately compared his height. He was only 13 centimeters taller than Carlos. Not that the difference is too big. The invisible suction pulled him towards Carlos, but Shen Feng did not resist. When the figures overlapped, his consciousness returned to reality. Shen Feng looked at the arena where the overall situation seemed to have been decided, the previous sense of powerlessness disappeared, and his momentum skyrocketed. "You have been tossing about a lot, it's my turn." Pullman Stadium. Hercules fans have already started entertaining themselves in the stands. The team successfully relegated one round in advance. Their dangling hearts let go again. Coach Broad also walked back to the bench from the sidelines and sat down. Leading by 2 goals, the morale of the SBV elite team also began to decline. Shouldn't be able to turn over the waves. Shen Feng is still actively running to meet up, so what? In Broad's eyes, this player has a bright spot. But to say that he is better than Sneijder, Alfonso Alves, and Farfan is an exaggeration. The media likes to do this. The players of the SBV elite team also lowered their rhythm accordingly, because the 2 they conceded in the past were obviously the harder they attacked and the quicker they died. "I'm in a state of confusion now, and I don't know what to do." In the 77th minute of the game, Shen Feng received Destro's pass from the left in the front court and turned around. "Keep your distance from the defender." At this time, he was facing the situation of intensive defense in the front court, and he had made a decision before. Although Carlos is not a striker, his offensive ability is comparable to that of a winger. But it still tends to be a classical winger. Rather than the modern winger who has become more popular in recent years and is more focused on cutting inside. Shen Feng is now trying to go down the outside line and try to create opportunities from the flank. When he dribbled in front of Hercules' defensive midfield, he decisively passed the ball across the left flank, and Destro made an assist. Hercules' right back Bochi immediately stepped forward to press. He doesn't seem to be worried about the space behind him. Because Shen Feng never appeared on the wing outside the penalty area from beginning to end. In the first half, he frequently hit a wall and returned with a hard rush. After supporting the ball in the second half, he moved to the penalty area to grab the spot. But this time Shen Feng moved to the area behind him. Destro swung the ball wide, sending a through pass just as the ball was about to roll off the touchline. Bochi immediately turned around and retreated, and unexpectedly saw the experienced midfielder De Vries assisting the flank to chase Shen Feng, which made Bochi feel a lot at ease. When Shen Feng dribbled close to the edge of the penalty area, he smashed the ball and cut inward. De Vries, who was closest to him, immediately slowed down and made a defensive interception. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Shen Feng continued to swipe the ball forward. It was obviously too late for De Vries to start again. After Shen Feng went down, he decided to pass the ball vigorously. When the half-high ball flew in front of the goal, Brabber's reaction was slow, and slowly also missed the best opportunity to follow up. The 2 teammates may not keep up with the rhythm because of frustration. But Shen Feng's operation made the 2 of them cheer up again. Even the 3 midfielders of the SBV elite team are in high spirits. Although I don't know why, Shen Feng has now become the vein of the team's battle on the field. When he has been stepping into the bottom line area of the wing that has not appeared before, the SBV elite team also brought a new impact in the play style. Hercules just cleared the ball. Bruins controlled the ball again in the middle circle, Velasco plugged in to respond, stopped the ball and then quickly passed the ball diagonally to the left. Shen Feng succeeded in retreating, and the right defender Bochi also returned to his defense area. He is a little panicked now. Just now, he was beaten and failed to catch up, but now he is going to confront Shen Feng for the first time. The 21-year-old Bochi is of black blood. Logically speaking, he should have an innate advantage in physical confrontation, but he hastily stepped forward to directly confront the pressing, and Shen Feng also took the initiative to attack. After they collided shoulder to shoulder, they both rebounded slightly. When Bochi stepped back to stabilize his center of gravity and swooped, Shen Feng pulled the ball and turned around to pass him by. Bochi gnashed his teeth and his eyes were splitting. He didn't win the confrontation, but his second was easily played by Shen Feng. Shen Feng came to the bottom line again and sent a powerful cross. When Brabber grabbed the forward point, he led the defender to follow closely, but found that Shen Feng passed the ball behind him. After making an emergency stop, he turned around and looked behind the restricted area. The picture that comes into view is that Slory stretched his legs and shot the ball pad into the lower right corner of the goal before the defender made a clearance. At this moment, the Pullman Stadium seemed to fall into a dead silence. Hercules fans' celebrations come to an abrupt end. My heart is suspended again. Shen Feng ran towards the midfield, Slory immediately retreated with the football in his arms, and Brabber took the initiative to rush to give Shen Feng a high five. The players of the SBV elite team seemed to be full of blood, actively gesturing and shouting to each other. The game is not over yet, there is still a chance. Perhaps they didn't realize that this inexplicable confidence came from Shen Feng, who only caught their attention 2 weeks ago. Lockhoff instantly released the state of playing dead, ending his cranky thoughts about the relegation playoffs. He opened his throat and clapped his hands. Now start attacking and defending. Before his was hot, Broad couldn't help but stand up and walk to the sidelines. He frowned and stared at Shen Feng on the court. Although Slory scored the ball, it was Shen Feng who stirred up the situation and created opportunities. The game is almost over, do you remember that you are a winger? Why did you go before? Broad gritted his teeth, his face was gone. Substitution. Removed 2 strikers and replaced 2 midfielders. Strengthen the defense. As long as Hercules can win the game, they're on vacation. It doesn't matter if you are scolded by the media for being a dog. After the new season starts, who still remembers what happened in the relegation battle last season? After the SBV elite team made a substitution, their attack power was greatly reduced. This gave the SBV elite team a completely anti-customer-oriented environment. There are about 10 minutes left in the game. The SBV elite team has fallen into a difficult stalemate again. Hercules strengthens the wing defense, and Bochi has a helper. Chuan Dang couldn't defend Shen Feng by himself, but now he has more teammates to help, plus the defensive midfielder, forming a triangle defense system. Shen Feng really had to try twice, but all came back without success. Either the ball was stolen or the opponent destroyed. Seeing the passage of time every minute and second. The fans of Hercules are only slightly nervous, after all, they have a very spacious retreat psychologically. As long as he doesn't lose, Hercules will definitely be ranked above the SBV elite team. Lockhoff's voice was almost hoarse, and his hands were almost swollen. At this time, he really can't give up. As long as he can score another goal before the end of the game, the SBV elite team will maintain the hope of relegation. Once again in a deadlock, the game passed 87 minutes. Shen Feng knew that playing on the wing would no longer be effective. Even if he could make a cross, the opponent would have more players blocking the line in the penalty area. The success rate is minimal. At this time, he had no choice. Perhaps he exposed one of his obvious shortcomings, game experience. He had no choice but to choose luck. Last minute of regular game time. When Shen Feng received a pass from his teammates on the left side of the front court again, Destro tried to cover Shen Feng before running to the bottom line. Although there was a certain effect, when Shen Feng took a small step forward to drive the surrounding defenders to the wing to help defend and retreat, he passed the ball diagonally back to Velasco. After taking the ball, he quickly moved to the left in front of the penalty area. Velasco passed the ball diagonally to Ruiz, who followed up on the right, who kept the ball and sent a diagonal pass to the ground. The football quickly rolled towards Shen Feng's running line. Before he touched the ball, defenders and midfielders poured in from all directions. Shen Feng is extremely calm at this moment. He has no chance to stop the ball and adjust again. No matter whether he adjusts forward or laterally, there is no room for him. There is only one chance. Guards with guns, double the firepower. The moment the football flew in front of him, his swinging leg shot was completed. Concentrate almost all of your strength on the swinging leg, condensing on the top of the foot that locks the ankle. Boom! The football flew out of Shen Feng's feet outside the penalty area. Like light and electricity. The Hercules generals who were besieging him stopped and looked back. What caught my eye was a picture of a white rainbow hanging straight to the upper right corner of the goal. The audience at Pullman Stadium was stunned. This long-range shot is shocking, and the skill shocked all four. OMG! Shen Feng scored an incredible long shot from almost 25 yards from the goal. World wave! World wave! He once again carried the SBV elite team to the world. He is incredible. The score became 3-3. The SBV elite team pulled 2 goals in 10 minutes. The Hercules fans were in a cold sweat, completely unhappy. Originally thought that the relegation would be guaranteed in advance, but now it seems that the situation has changed subtly. Broad was furious. Before the game, a careful plan was formulated to focus on restricting Shen Feng. After freezing him for nearly 80 minutes, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com ended up letting him rewrite the surefire ending at the last moment. What kind of monster is he? The SBV elite team collectively chanted Shen Feng's name, and they were madly excited. The birth of Shen Feng brought them unlimited passion for 3 consecutive games, crazy and incredible. And their opponents seemed to have experienced a similar tsunami in front of Shen Feng. Lockhoff celebrated again with a slight gaffe. But he once again saw Shen Feng running towards the midfield with a serious face. The generals of the SBV elite team originally rushed towards him, but they all slowed down. The game entered injury time at this moment, but Shen Feng still seemed to want to score. His firm belief in victory quickly infected his teammates. Even many teammates slandered in their hearts, "This is not a celebration? What do you think? Freak!" But when they set up the formation one step ahead of Hercules, everyone's faces were filled with murderous aura. The fighting spirit is monstrous. Seeing the state of the SBV elite team, Hercules was a little frightened. As if they had become prey in the eyes of the SBV elite. People are knives, I am fish. Shen Feng turned his head to look at the eye injury stoppage time, 3 minutes. After taking his eyes back, he put on a gesture of preparation to start, just waiting for Hercules to kick the ball. Perhaps the audience in front of the TV can feel the aura of Shen Feng's concentration and fighting spirit from the close-up pictures. Such a player, even if he doesn't love him, definitely left a deep impression on all the audience.